Okay, everyone. Thanks for clicking into our recording of our webinar to provide you with an overview of the work that Epicenter has been doing with the Results First initiative and the Pennsylvania Christian Crime and Delinquency. Today, we want to give you an overview of the project, talk about the programs that have been included in our analysis, review some of the methods that we've used for calculating program costs and also assessing implementation quality. At the end of the call, we'll offer you an opportunity to reach out to us to schedule sort of an individual conversation to talk over any specific questions you might have. And we're really open to your feedback and would love to give you an opportunity to approve the estimates that we've pulled together. Overall, the goals of the project center on establishing Pennsylvania-specific program costs and benefits so that we can improve our accuracy of our return on investment estimates. A secondary goal and something we'll be working on moving forward is to explore the costs and benefits of the Epicenter's technical assistance. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. Today in the room I have Dr. Joshie Gales and Roger Spa, who make up our data team here at Epicenter, and they're going to walk you through more of the details.
Thank you, Leanne. The Pew MacArthur Results First Initiative is a project of the Pew Charitable Trust and the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. Results First works with state and county jurisdictions, helping them to implement an innovative cost-benefit analysis approach that helps them invest in policies and programs that are proven to work. Currently, there are 24 states and 4 county jurisdictions participating in the Results First initiative. The Results First framework entails a 5-phase process for evidence-based policymaking, helping jurisdictions make data-driven choices for funding and supporting proven effective programs, policies, and practices. The first phase of the framework is the program assessment phase. In this phase, Results First assists jurisdictions to delve into their systems to identify programs that are funded and being implemented, identify the level of evidence associated with those programs, and establish the benefits and costs of funded programs. Through this work, Results First has developed a clearinghouse registry of registries for effective programs, practices, and policies and their level of evidence. We are currently in the program assessment phase in Pennsylvania. The second phase of the Results First framework is budget development. In this phase, jurisdictions use the data obtained from the program assessment phase to inform how they develop their budgets and establish what programs to vet based on the costs and benefits to the state. The third and fourth phases are implementation oversight and outcomes monitoring. Implementation oversight helps jurisdictions ensure the effective delivery of funded programs, whereas outcomes monitoring establishes whether programs are achieving their desired impact. This is largely the work of the Epicenter's technical assistance and support. The last phase of the Results First framework is targeted evaluation. In this phase, jurisdictions may choose to appropriate funding towards evaluations of programs that lack sufficient evidence. Results First recognizes that evidence-based policymaking happens within and across systems. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we want to establish the systems or resource costs and benefits for a Pennsylvania-specific benefits model. This slide shows some key pieces of data that will go into the model for estimating those benefits. The 2 systems we focused on are the juvenile justice system and the adult criminal justice system. When we say resource costs, we're really talking about resource usage that happens, for example, with jail time, prison, arrests, and so forth, across the juvenile and adult criminal justice systems. To get to the benefits, we consider the system avoidance from these 2 systems and the cost savings from not using resources when individuals avoid entering into the system. The Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency is working to identify each of these resource costs for each of the outcomes within these systems. These estimates will make up the benefits that will go into the cost analysis model. This next slide shows a sample of the end result of the program assessment phase. Starting at the far left, you have the program or model being funded, followed by the program's budget, then the level of evidence the program has received, and the estimated cost and benefits and their ratio. The focus of this presentation today is to inform you all on our updated methods, which we believe offer greater precision for estimating program costs and benefits for the programs that we support. We do want to acknowledge the tremendous support we have received from the Results First initiative in updating these methods and their assistance in helping us establish greater confidence in our cost-benefit analysis. This is achieved through several technical assistance strategies. First, there's an emphasis on capacity building, where Results First works with jurisdictions to co-create the landscape for evidence-based policymaking. They also provide numerous technical tools and resources to aid in implementing the Results First framework. They provide strategic support for advancing the Results First model. For example, Results First will work with a jurisdiction convening at a government meeting to garner stakeholder buy-in for appropriating funding towards evaluating a program with insufficient evidence. And lastly, they also provide multiple training and learning community opportunities to jurisdictions who are implementing the Results First model. The current partners involved in this work in Pennsylvania include the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. They are orchestrating and leading the front in this endeavor and are responsible for establishing the benefits estimates. The Evidence-Based Prevention and Intervention Support Center is working to establish the program cost. The Juvenile Court Judges Commission and the Office of Children, Youth, and Families aid in gathering the juvenile justice system resource cost data. And the Sentencing Commission and Department of Corrections aid in gathering the adult criminal justice system resource cost data. Now, Roger is going to tell you about the specific evidence-based programs that will be input into the Results First model for the state of Pennsylvania.
So the following is a list of the 12 programs that will be included in the Results First model. The criteria for being included on this list is that they are included in the Washington State Institute on Public Policy's return on investment data. So we do have data from them on that model, on those models, and also that they are supported via technical assistance by the Epicenter here at Penn State.
All right, so in this next slide, we're going to show you a schematic of how costs and benefits have historically been established for the programs that the Commission on Crime and Delinquency has funded. This work was the result of a partnership between the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency and prevention economic researchers at the Penn State University. This earlier work established validated and standardized metrics for measuring program process and outcomes across the various programs funded and a scientific method for establishing program costs and benefits. At the bottom is a layout of the various individual grants that are funded in a given fiscal year. Because the metrics are standardized across grants, we can aggregate those data up to the program level to get a total number of participants served based on the process and fidelity data. This is then used to establish the per participant costs for each of the funded programs. Program benefits were then established based on research evidence of the effect sizes and the Washington State Institute for Public Policy cost savings estimates derived from system avoidance. These benefits were found to be comparable to Pennsylvania systems cost savings and thus were adequate for our cost benefits analysis. In the next slide, Roger is going to show you the resulting data that we gathered using this previous method.
So the example that you're seeing here is the older way that we used to calculate this information. This is an example from our 2014 report. The first most basic calculation that we did was to take the actual grant amounts awarded by PCCD, so that's the actual amount of money that was awarded for the grants, and the actual number of participants that were served. This is based on all grants that were closed in a particular time period. In this case, it was for the 2014 fiscal year. That those divided, the actual grant amounts divided by the number of participants becomes the PCCD cost per participant. So it is important to understand that all of this data is derived on PCCD grants of these particular programs. That PCCD cost participant is carried in the first column as cost per participant. So the first example you see there is for the aggression replacement training program in the 2014 fiscal year. The benefit per participant was taken in the past directly from the WISP return on investment or the benefit information of the return on investment from WISP. So when you take the benefit estimated by WISP subtracted by the cost per participant calculated, you gain the benefit minus cost. Finally, multiplying that by the number of participants equals a total cost benefit for each of the programs funded in that particular time frame. Sum those at the bottom and you receive a total cost benefit for all the programs in that time frame funded by PCCD. And then you could look at this against the actual amount of grant funding that was spent on those PCCD grants in that time frame. So again, this is the older way that we've done it, and I'm going to turn it back over to Joshi to talk a little bit more about how we've moved forward for increasing our accuracy.
Thanks, Roger. So our work with Results First has really allowed us to think more critically about the estimates that we're using in our cost-benefit analysis. And they have provided us the assistance to arrive at greater precision in our cost estimates and to provide benefit estimates based on Pennsylvania system's cost savings. So a note about false precision. False precision really occurs when data are presented in a manner that implies that there's better precision than is really justified. And since precision can be a limit to accuracy, this can often lead to overconfidence in the accuracy of estimates and allowing us to confidently assume what our cost estimates are for the programs that we support. Thus, if we return to the cost-benefit schematic we reviewed earlier, we can see where we have taken steps to reduce precision bias in our cost estimates. In our earlier work, we did not take into account variations in number of participants served across individual grants for a particular program. For example, if the total number of participants served and our total cost for LST is weighted towards one particular grant, that information can be important for determining appropriate program cost. So in our current model, we now estimate a weighted average for program costs that is respective of the particular number of participants each individual grant serves. In addition, we estimate the weighted standard deviation and confidence interval around that weighted average. This gives us a more precise range around estimates we establish for all of our supported programs. The other update to this schematic is the new benefits estimates that will be input into our model. We will use effect sizes, we will still use effect sizes from research evidence, but now the Pennsylvania system's cost savings within the juvenile justice and adult criminal justice systems will be used. In the next slide, Roger will show you what those updated cost estimates look like for each of the programs we support.
Okay, folks, this is the slide that we've been building up to. This is the program cost estimates. I'm going to first describe the top columns. So the PCCD low, as Joshi had described, is taking the PCCD mean, which is a weighted average of the programs, subtracting our confidence interval. So the confidence interval is subtracted from the mean for the low, and it's added to the mean to come up with the PCCD high. And the reason we're using the term PCCD low, mean, and high here is because it is, again, directly related to the grants that are in our data file. We currently have 141 total grants in that file. The final column is the number in each of those programs that can be seen in the data file. A few additional things that I should note here. The original 12 programs are bolded and they're at the beginning of this chart. Positive action, you'll notice, is listed as not applicable. That's because there have been no PCCD grantees who have completed positive action at the time of this data collection. The next group, with functional family therapy and multi-systemic therapy, are not based on the same calculations. These calculations are based on a provider survey that was done with 6 functional family program sites or providers and 10 multi-systemic therapy sites in the 2014-2015 fiscal year. So those amounts were the low, mean, and high were determined by those grantees, or not grantees, those providers that were surveyed in the 2014 fiscal year. The last group, the Ulvaeus Bullying Prevention Program, we do see that there have been 4 grants that have completed. All of this data is since October of 2012 is when we first started collecting this grant data. So it's grants that have closed since October of 2010. The Ulvaeus Bullying Prevention Program, therefore, we were able to calculate a low, mean, and high. For Familias Fuertes and strong African American families, the last 2 on the list, we've only had one grantee close. So in those cases, the mean is actually the amount that particular site was determined as their cost per participant. I'm going to pass it back over to Joshi.
Thanks, Roger. So we are excited about this work, and we do see benefits in having a Pennsylvania-specific benefits estimates to put into our cost benefits analysis. And we do believe that this will allow us to conduct more accurate estimates on our return on investment for Pennsylvania in order to advocate for continued funding for evidence-based programming across the Commonwealth. Where we see this work going, we did talk about in the results first model earlier, the implementation oversight and the outcomes monitoring phases of it. And we would like for future work to really start to look at the value of the Epicenter's technical assistance and the cost for running a technical assistance and support center, because we know both from the research and from the practice, from our practice, that these are important ingredients to ensuring high quality implementation and valid impact assessment for evidence-based programs. And just to give you an overview of who is all involved in all of this work that has been going on, there are folks at the Results First initiative who have been providing us technical assistance, Mike Wilson, Monica Sharma, and Liz Ryder. At the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, we have Mike Pennington, who is the director, and Jeff Cochin, who is the program manager. And then here at the Epicenter, we have Stephanie Bradley, who is the director, Ian Cook, who is the assistant director, myself, who is the research and evaluation analyst, and Roger Spa, the data manager. Thank you, and I will pass it over to Leanne now.
Thanks, Joshi and Roger. Thanks for sticking with us to watch the video. Please reach out to me if you'd like to schedule a meeting to talk about your specific program. Roger and Joshi and I would be happy to answer your questions. You can send me an email or give me a call. Thanks for your time today. Bye.